Okay. It's a little bit of a snicket. Yeah, 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 yeah. Tira, yeah, tira, yeah, 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 mama, yeah, da, da, yeah, 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 tira, yeah, 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 da, da, yeah, da, 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 da. Da 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 da. Tira ya ya boy. Tira ya 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 ya. Tira la ya ya mama. Da 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 oh da 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 ah ya 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 ya. I didn't know if I'm starting. Da da ya 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 hey ya da 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 oh da 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 di di da ya 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 ha di da ya ya di da ya 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 mo ba 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 de di 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 da 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 did I die? Shalom, shalom, rachik v'karov. Omar Hashem Fasiv. So I sat with my kids on Simchas Torah night, and I said, this is such a happy, fun day. They saw their Abba Mamish singing and dancing like crazy, and I said, there's 2 times in the year that halacha mentions a mishteh. One of them is Simchas Torah. The Rama says it's a minig, Sudas mishteh legamra shel Torah, and the other time is the din of a mishteh, that you must mamish chayiv inish lebesume bepuria on Purim. And I said to him, what's the difference? I said, you know that this is like such, after all the Yamim Noraim, the point is to get to Simchas Torah, right? That's like the point, is to get to this amazing, Hashem just wants us to love him, and he wants us to be so happy and love each other and just have, of course, yira, and that comes first, but it's on a way and on a path to living with such ahava and such simcha. And but I said to him, what's the difference between Simchas Torah and Purim? And Hashem sends diburim to parents. I hope it was good, because they know, my kids know that their Abba lives for Purim. But like, it's just mamish. I really try. I'm not, especially last year, I wasn't as good at it. But I really try to mamish hold on and remember Purim all the time. And I said, what's the difference? It's Simchas Torah is the unbelievable joy that Hashem gave us the Torah. And it's incredible. And mamish a Torah from Hashem. Purim is a different thing. The word Megillah is not the same as the word Torah. It's finding Hashem in life itself. Finding Hashem in life itself, which is like a different kind of madrega, like a different kind of a thing. And we're going to see this now. What the Berditchover says about this, and I think it's just crucial in terms of bringing everything that we've Be'ezus Hashem davened for and experienced over the last bunch of weeks of avoda and kirva Be'ezus Hashem with a Kodesh Baruch Hu, with our spouses, with our families, with our children, with our friends. that to make it real, to give it a Breishis, to give it a real start, to make it, like this is also the image on Simchas Torah itself. There's a Chasan Torah, is all in a certain way in Kabbalah that represents Kudsha Brichu, the kind of, if you look in Tanya, Perek Mem Aleph has a beautiful explanation of Yichud Kudsha Brichu Ushchinte, the Kudsha Brichu, the sort of divine, heavenly plan and energy of the Torah. Then you have Chasan Breishis, that is often given to somebody who's a big Bal Chesed, who knows how to live in the world. And it's this great yichud between the Chasan Torah and the Chasan Breishis. And in a certain way, the whole Simchas Torah is about moving from, like we say, Mashiv HaRuach, Hashem should, like we gave back to Hashem the Ruchnias, and now it's time, Marida Gashem, bring down bracha and Gashmias, let it be real for us physically in the world, right? After all of this. And it's a Simchas Torah is kind of a gateway from all the theoreticals and all the heavenly energies into the physical world, and the time, and in certain ways, so you have a minig of a mishteh, but the time of a mitzvah of a mishteh is Purim, is when you really have shchinte, the depths of life, the depths of what they call in Chabad Hasidus chelek boirei shenasa nivra, a piece of the Creator that has become a creation, that the soul, the depths of our very being, and the stories of our lives really, really unify with the heavenly Torah, and it becomes mamish one thing. We need to make it real. We need a Breishis. Let's do this amazing koach of Breishis. And so here, let's go into the Heilige Berditchover here. This is, I think, today being the Yartseit, Reb Levi Yitzchak ben Sarah Sasha, Schusa Yagan Aleinu, the unbelievable, Rabbi Nachman called him the pe'er of the generation, the beauty and the wonder, the splendor of Am Yisrael. He called him like the tefillin of Am Yisrael. And I think, it seems to me, I'm pretty sure that in terms of his writings that we have in Kedushas Levi, the longest sustained piece, the longest piece that goes about on one topic, is these 4 Kedushas about the 4 mitzvahs of Purim. And he goes on and on. Mamashi, you can really, his soul is mamish, and his soul is in all of his writings. But here, it's like that's my sense of things. That the Berditchover's beating heart can be found particularly here, and it can be found everywhere. I mean, this is again just me, and I haven't actually learned the whole sefer, so who knows? But near it. So he's talking here about why is it that it's on Purim that we really truly receive the Torah. And again, Breishis, right? The first Rashi in Breishis is the Torah should have started. Rashi quotes his father, Kibud Av, fixing a relationship with our parents. And Rashi says the Torah should have started with the first mitzvah. And he says, no, Koyach Maisav Hikilama, the Inyan of stories, that's also the Inyan of the Megillah, the Inyan of stories. But the Berditchover is going to say further here, says, why is it that it was Purim that specifically we really received the Torah? The Gemara says in Shabbos, that Hashem held the mountain over the heads of Am Yisrael, and said, if you take the Torah, good, if not, I'm dropping it. And then Purim, Kimu v'Kiblu. Vanira, Lama Kiblu Torah Az. If we could have a diagram of Shemayim with all of its aspects, all of its types of angels and so on, we would see that it parallels the mitzvahs of the Torah. And Torah, because their whole energy comes from the Torah and from the mitzvahs, from this whole idea of 613 and all of them, and the whole system of what the Torah is. As the Midrash says, Duchu Torah Ubara Lamos, right? He looked into the Torah. Okay, so there seems to be a typo here. He looked into the Torah and created the worlds. V'hine gam ba'olam tachton, olam hazeh olam hateva, ikrichos gam me'atorah mitzvahs. The truth is, even this physical world, also, its main energy comes from the Torah and the mitzvahs. Ve'ahava v'yira sebor baruch shemon. Efes ki ba'olam ha'elyon, just what? In the upper world, who olam srafim, the place of the fiery angels, all different types of angels. Who has sichlius shel avodas habayre baruch hu. There, the consciousness, the spiritual aspect of what it means to serve Hashem is what's revealed. Hu megula. Uba'olam hazeh olam hateva hachiyus shebahu haTorah v'mitzvahs. And just here, it's hidden inside the physical world is this energy that it's all here for the sake. Breishis, Bishvil Reishis, for the sake of the Torah that's called Reishis, Am Yisrael who are called Reishis, to keep it Avdus, Habor Baruch Hu Mechus, it's hidden, it's covered over. Kihumador Lechatzoini, V'tzafun or B'toch HaChoshech, the light is hidden within the darkness. Vehine al Yidei Iskenu B'Torah, Anachnu Mechabrim Atzveinu Ba'oros HaRuchnim. So when we learn Torah, we're connecting ourselves with these higher spiritual lights. Shalom Aleichem Chaimel. From Chaim. As when we learn Torah, so we are connecting ourselves with the oiros, the spiritual light. When I'm learning Torah with love and with fear, then I start to connect to the light that is in the Torah. We should be blessed with this a lot, that our nefesh, we really have a sense of love and fear of Hashem through the learning. And the joy of Hashem. Because all the spirituality of the Torah is filled with that joy and that spirituality of Shemayim. And he says, so because why? Because when you're learning Torah, you're connecting to the heavenly energies that are giving existence to heaven and to all of the kind of spiritual blueprint of reality. The Torah is that God looked into the Torah, created the world. You're connecting to that blueprint, which is a joyous thing, which is a heavenly, godly thing. As the pasuk says, "Oiz v'chedva b'mkoimai," strength and gladness is in His place. You're going to connect to that strength, that gladness of Hashem's place. And on the other hand, in the Megillah, there are hidden names of Hashem. They're not written out. You have to know where they are. The letters are spread out. You have to read them backwards. You have to find the beginning of words, ends of words, and so on. That is, the Megillah is a different framework, a different whole network of the energy that is within Teva, within that which covers the spiritual energy. It's not the same thing, right? It's a whole different thing. So then, because the miracle of the Megillah happened with no revealed miracles, it was not a light from heaven piercing through. It was not some supernatural. It was within nature completely, and therefore, at the time of reading the Megillah, and so the person is going to be filled with love and fear of Hashem. That's why it's such a big deal to read the Megillah. It's a bigger chiyuv to read the Megillah than it is to read from the Torah. As the Gemara says, mevatlin Talmud Torah lishma mikra Megillah. There's something called, you have to actually stop learning Torah in order to hear this other thing, which is called mikra Megillah. The mikra Megillah gives us the ability to experience Hashem in this world. And he says, this is why there's a Maidah Rabbah L'Oraisa. This is why when the Torah was first given, there was a complaint. Because on high. I think he says it like right around here. I still want to. I have to make this a bit of a shorter shiur. When you're presented with a Torah that is heavenly, it's great while you're holding in a heavenly place. But then you come down to this world, and you need to be forced to keep it, because when you come down into this world, it's so much more difficult. It's so much more difficult to connect to it. It's so much more difficult to connect to it. Like he says, let's just say what he says. I want to show you the words inside for a second. Lochen, right. A little further down. Lochen b'shar kriyas shar haTorah. It's not like what happens when you hear the Megillah is different than when you hear the rest of the Torah. Ki haTorah shenitna mehar Sinai humora l'olamos elyonim. What is the Har Sinai Torah? It's a heavenly thing. It's something that is above. Lachein be'esh shechazal gashmius morav ma'idara v'loraisa. Therefore, when after we come down from it, right? While we were receiving it, great, but then Hashem had to hold the mountain over our heads and say, keep this, even though it's so hard, even though in the world that you look around you, you don't see my presence, you don't have a sense of it. It had to be held, the mountain had to be held over our heads. Ava b'Megillah, kevan shenizdakachu gam olam hateva, kihine hanes haya betoch hateva, lachen hadar kiblu b'yimei Achashverosh. And therefore, that's why Megillah, the Purim was the time where we really were able to receive the Torah, because we found Hashem in the story, in the very stories of our lives itself. So this is an unbelievably powerful thing that he's saying, that reading the Megillah, he doesn't say, he says on Purim reading the Megillah. Maybe it's true. I mean, sometimes when just singing it once in a while, Vayhi bimei Achashverosh, hu Achashverosh, Hamalech mehodav akush, sheva v'shumaya medina. It does something when you even just do it in the middle of the year. It gives us a certain koach. Now we can understand why the mitzvah of reading the Megillah is even greater than that of reading the Torah. There's only one time a year where you really must go to shul and hear the laning, which is the laning about Amalek, which is related to Purim also. And the Gemara says you have to stop learning in order to hear the Megillah. Isn't hearing the Megillah part of learning? It's kuvaldik. As we said before, the reading of the Megillah, that's what fixes us here in this world. To be able to, this is like, it was such an affirmation for me, because I really don't know how to walk in the world without Purim. I mamish don't know how to do it. I need it so badly every second. And when I forget it, it's a whole different world than when I remember Purim. Why? Because the Megillah is not just the story of once upon a time. It's that special time where we all, as a nation, perceived Hashem within nature, within our story, that opened up for us for all generations and at all times. And particularly through the mitzvah of reading the Megillah on Purim, but also I think any time that we think about Purim, relate to Purim, try to live a little bit Purimdik, we're finding a whole different part of what Torah life is, which is the vessel of this world. That this world is not just only a covering and it's hard and we have to kind of live up to a spiritual ideal that you can only really relate to, on a mountaintop kind of Sinai consciousness. Purim is what gives us the koach to be able to really receive and relate to all of that, all the spiritual teachings of the Torah, because we've been able to find Hashem with us right here in our lives, right here in our lives. This is something my Rosh Kol last night pointed out to me. The last word in Rashi is the description of Moshe breaking the tablets. Sheshibarta, yeshekoyach, that you broke the luchos. Sheshibarta, that you broke. Shibarta, you broke, is exactly the letters Breishis, just missing the aleph. Okay, the last word of Rashi, Shibarta, that you broke. Talking about Moshe broken the luchos, we could take it also figuratively for ourselves. You look back and say, "Oh, what did I break? I broke so much." But in that brokenness, to know that Hashem is with us in Persia, in the middle of nowhere, with a decree on our heads of a pandemic, of whatever it is, of insanity of all different kinds that we've all had to face over the last long time. To know that that aleph of Hashem is with us, then the Shibarta, you broke it, turns into Breishis when you put the aleph in there. That sense of Hashem being with us in our story. Before we learn any Torah, before anything, we stop learning to pay attention to the story. You stop learning to go hear the Megillah. This is this amazing message from the Berditchover, that this is hearing Hashem in our story. That's what gives us the koach to really say yes to the Torah. Without that, the Torah is always forcing. Yeah, I have this meshugana life, it's disconnected, and I have to force in this spiritual thing of what the Torah is. But as Hashem, the bracha is that Breishis, with this Shabbos Breishis, Tafshin Pei Beis, this Shabbos, we're reading Breishis again, like we've never, it's a new year, and the way we're going to read and relate to Breishis this year is absolutely unprecedented. It's with the power and the perseverance of all of Am Yisrael last thousands of years, and particularly getting through the last couple of difficult years. We're reading Breishis this year. We can bring that aleph into the brokenness. We can have a new beginning. We can have the stories of the Torah, which is the aspect of Purim, the stories that precede all the laws. These stories of Hashem creating the world, the stories of life itself, Breishis. I'll just say one last little cute thing that came to my mind today as I was thinking about this. We have, we're putting into our lives now a new tamidim, a new constancy of serving Hashem in this year. The constancy of serving Hashem is epitomized in the Korban Tamid, the offering that's brought every morning and every afternoon in the Beis Hamikdash, paralleling the davening of Mincha and of Shachris and of Mincha. And the Ramah at the beginning of Hilchos of Orach Chaim and Shulchan Aruch, the first Ramah, he says, Shivisi Hashem negdi Tamid. You have to always have Hashem before your eyes, Tamid. And at the very end of Orach Chaim, of the section of Shulchan Aruch that deals with the calendar and with daily life, the Ramah, Reb Moshe Isserlis, in his gloss on the Shulchan Aruch, on the Code of Jewish Law, he writes, Tov Lev Mishteh Tamid. Somebody who's good of heart is always having a mishteh. Always having a mishteh. It's incredible. He's not telling you to chas v'shalom, be alcoholic, or actually be drunk every day. He's telling you to celebrate life and love each moment, right? And the Farshim say these are the two tamidim of the Ramah, the tamid of awareness of Hashem, Shivisi Hashem, the negdi tamid, I place Hashem before me always, and the tamid of Tov Lev Mishteh Tamid, always have this mishteh, this simcha, which every morning and every afternoon, right? We were celebrating the pouring of the water on Sukkot, but now every morning and every afternoon they would pour wine on the mizbeach, and mamish, it had to be alcoholic wine, and had to pour it in a way that it would like gurgle in, like it would be a lot. And Rava, the Amora, would drink his Kiddush wine in a big gulp every Friday night, based on paralleling the way that the wine went down in a very nice geshmaka sheichar l'Hashem, like so to speak, a drunkenness to Hashem. Sheichar, like a alcoholic wine for Hashem. It's unbelievable. That's the Gemara in Sukkah. I think it's Nun. Nun Hey maybe, around there. I'm not looking for it now. And so here's this little Rashi Tevas I have for Breishis. The Be'ezus Hashem, Purim is always about backwards. If you read Breishis backwards, Tet, Yud, Shin, Aleph, Reish, Beis, you could read it like this: Tishte, drink, Yayin, wine, Shel of Elokim, Tishte, Yayin, Shel Elokim, Taf, Yud, Shin, Aleph, Rananu Beyachad, sing and exult together, right? Rananu Beyachad, right? Tishte, Yayin, Shel Elokim, Rananu Beyachad. The Be'ez Hashem, we should have that koach to read things backwards, to feel the nahafaychu, how everything with all the insanities, the interruptions, the old patterns creeping back in, to be able to say, no, I'm doing everything backwards today. I'm dancing through this. I'm gonna take a step out and not get into that mood. For 5 seconds, I'm gonna just dance around my house. For 5 minutes, I'm gonna go onto my balcony and talk to God. For 1 minute, I'm gonna learn a pasuk and see what Rashi says on it. For a second, I'm gonna remember somebody's birthday and call them. Just break through the patterns a little bit. And Yirtzeh Hashem, with the schus of our making, like the Gemara says, you open for me a hole like a pinprick, and I'll open for you huge ballrooms of experience and connectivity. So, bracha v'atzlacha, a good Shabbos, good Shabbos.